everyone! In today's video, I want to share with you my thoughts, my experiences, and my review of using the Sony 28mm f2 lens. This is an incredibly tiny and lightweight lens that I initially purchased for vlogging and creating travel films. I bought it about 3 years ago, so it's gotten a lot of use since then with both video and photography, so we're going to start by looking at the video side of things, and then I'll share with you my review of what it's like using it as a photography lens. Since I initially got this lens for vlogging, there was a few criteria that my new lens that I was looking for had to meet. I needed something that was wide enough that I could hold out in front of me to be able to film myself without it being too cropped in. So for example, a 35mm would be way too close to do that, so I needed something wider than that. I needed something that was small and lightweight so it was convenient to travel with, and also so I wouldn't have really shaky footage when I was filming myself. I wanted the footage to look high quality and sharp, which I feel like is a given when you're looking for a new lens. I also wanted something with a wide aperture so I could film at night without having to use any extra lighting or bring anything else with me. And I also wanted to be able to film at a shallow depth of field to make my video complement my photography style. Last but not least, since vlogging my travels and creating travel films was a hobby of mine, I also needed it to be budget friendly. So after doing a lot of research and taking a look at a lot of different lenses, the 28mm f2 seemed to tick all the boxes. So here is some raw and unedited video footage so you can see the quality of what the shots look like. These were all filmed on two different cameras, the Sony a7S Mark I, which is what I used to vlog on a couple of years ago, and the Sony a7 III, which is my current vlogging camera. All these shots were taken on standard picture profile. I usually try and make sure my white balance and exposure is set correctly before I start filming to have balanced looking footage straight out of the camera to work with. The 28mm is, in my opinion, best used for filming and photographing landscapes due to it being a wide angle lens. The majority of the time, I like to shoot wide open at f2, and even then, the footage comes out sharp with minimal blurring on the edges or the center of the frame. So all the footage that you're looking at the moment was all filmed at f2. Color rendition straight out of the camera, in my opinion, looks really clean and true to life, and it also gives a great image in any kind of lighting. I've shot with it indoors, at night, overcast, backlit, harsh sun, like any kind of lighting situation you can think of. I feel like the image out of the camera looks really, really nice. Autofocus is really fast and silent, which is really important when you're vlogging, as you don't want the noise from a lens autofocusing to interrupt any ambient noise that you might want to capture, or you talking to the camera as well. Here's an autofocus test I did with the Sony a7 III and the a7S Mark II, where I filmed the far landscape and then quickly switched the camera around to me to see how fast it would get into focus. So there it is, focused on the landscape, and we'll just turn it around and see how long it takes to find my face. Hopefully it's in focus by now. Quick flip. And here they are side by side, so you can compare how fast the autofocus is on the two different cameras. For the size and price of this lens, you can capture some incredibly high quality footage and photos that are very sharp. However, I would personally use this lens for YouTube videos and personal work, and I would probably pick a different lens if I were to shoot for a client or to shoot a wedding. The reason for this is because I hold a very high standard of work when it comes to clients, and while the 28mm is sharp, it's not as sharp as some of the other lenses that I already have in my kit. Here's some comparison footage between the Sony 28mm and one of the sharpest lenses we have in our kit, the Sigma 18-35 1.8, just so you can see the difference. And by the way, the Sigma is a crop frame lens. We just turn on the S35 option on our full frame Sonys to be able to use it. This means that you get about 28mm on the wider side of that lens. Even though you can really see that the Sigma is ridiculously sharp, for the price, the Sony 28mm really holds its own. The only downside to using this lens for vlogging is how close up the crop is when you turn it around to film yourself. So this isn't so much a fault of the lens as it is a fault of my own for wanting something small and light to be able to vlog on. But it is something to keep in mind if you are interested in using this lens for this reason. I personally like what the 28mm looks like for vlogging, but depending on what you can hold and what style you're after with your videos, you might want to go for something wider. There is a 21mm wide angle converter that you can add onto the lens. However, you can't add any filters to it, which is a downside for me. One last thing when it comes to video is that while autofocus is really fast and very accurate, if for some reason you have to use manual focus or you just like using manual focus in general, the 28mm has an electronic focus ring, which makes it really hard to get accurate focus manually. In the first few years of using this lens, I solely used it for video, and it wasn't until I got the Sony a7 III that I decided to just start taking photos on it as well. And again, for the price of this lens, I am so impressed by the results. Autofocus on the a7 III is practically instantaneous with sharp and accurate results. I found that the 28mm hardly ever missed focus when I had my focus point set for a portrait or landscape. And just like video, I photograph most of my time at f2. Here is a raw landscape photo taken at f2. As you can see, the image in the center is sharp, and when you zoom in to 100%, there is only very minimal decline in quality as you move out to the furthest corners of the photo. Overall, the color rendition straight out of the camera is really good as well. In terms of lens flare, it's a little bit hit and miss for me personally. I really love to capture lens flares in my photos. I feel like they just add a really nice touch to an image. I kind of like those little imperfections, so that's why I usually like to shoot without a lens hood so I'm able to capture that. I find that when shooting in harsher backlight, there tends to be quite a lot of variety in the lens flare that the 28mm produces. In this photo, for example, the lens flare is quite stripy and overall pretty distracting to the image. It kind of makes me wish it just wasn't there at all. In this video footage, you can see a colorful round-shaped lens flare as well, which I don't mind since it's a landscape, but I would definitely not want a lens flare like that for a portrait photo. On the other hand, when the sun is softer and closer to the horizon, you can capture some beautiful lens flares, such as these sunset photos in Utah. I love how soft the lens flare here is and how it's just a solid, creamy color as well. This is everything that I aim for when I try to capture lens flares in my photos. Last but not least is my favorite thing, which is bokeh. Since 28mm is quite wide, when you capture mid-length or full-length or landscape photos, you don't get much bokeh in the shots. Here are a couple of photos so you can see what I mean. For me personally, it is just on the cusp of being enough to separate my background from my foreground. I wouldn't want to use anything sharper than this for my style of photography though. You need to get in pretty close to your subject to capture bokeh with this lens, but when you do, the bokeh is really nice, clear, and round. Since I use this lens mostly while I'm traveling, I like to capture a lot of landscape photos, but for me, portrait photography with traveling is also really important as well. I'll usually take a lot of photos of Dan or my sister or whoever we're traveling with, and I'll ask them to take photos of me as well. The 28mm is perfect for mid-length to full body to really far away shots where your person is in the landscape of the photo. Since it's wide angle, I try to avoid capturing very close-up photos as it can really distort someone's face. For this reason, I personally wouldn't use this lens for my fashion or portrait photography. I usually like to get quite close up to my subject to capture really nice headshots, so a 28mm wouldn't be the best lens to do that. I would definitely pick something else like a 50mm or an 85. But for travel photography and portraits within travel, it's perfect since I want to capture both portraits and the landscape my subject is in at the same time. Overall, I can't say enough good things about the Sony 28mm f2 lens. For the price, the size, the weight, the autofocus speed, the image quality, it's something that's going to be very hard to beat. I always keep an eye out as to whether anyone's releasing something that can beat this, but in terms of size, weight, and quality, I haven't found anything yet. I would love to know if you guys use any lenses that fit this criteria. I would love to hear about that down in the comments. and possibly try it next and create a review video if I really like it. And I would also love to hear your thoughts about the Sony 28mm f2 lens down in the comments below. Would you use this for travel photography, or would you use this lens for other reasons? I would love to hear what you think. But as always, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. I make new videos every single Wednesday, so I will see you guys all next time. Bye!